Hello, everyone. It's Joyce here.
Hi, I'm Soshana Cockrell.
Thanks for joining us. We have a very special guest today, and estate planning attorney Holly Geerdes.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I've known you for a long time now, and I've worked on many different cases together, so I think I know you, and I know how good you are, how competent you are, and how caring you are in terms of taking care of clients and help them and all that. Even, I guess, from the start, to the end, even after they pass. So it has been a great experience. And from this session, I really want people to... We ask these questions a lot. People ask me these questions a lot. It's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Who do I go to, right? It's on everybody's mind, but I think they don't even know what to ask. So basically, I'm hoping to cover the basics as to, okay, this is what it means. This is what you should do. So me, I'm in the industry, so it's like I assume a lot. I assume people know a lot, so I may not be asking the right questions that the audience wants to hear.
But that's why I'm here.
That's right.
Great. So I'm here to ask those questions.
Yes.
I'll kind of be more simple and ask the questions, not so technical. So maybe we can get answers for myself and for the audience that are watching.
And your mom.
And my mom. I had to ask my mom to help me.
She wrote 2 pages long. Questions, 2 pages long. If I can start first, I get this question. Oftentimes my clients ask me this. Joyce, you're my CPA, you're my financial planner, you did all, anything and everything about my situation, my family history and my family dynamics and all that. Why can't you write these wills? Why can't you write living trust for me? There must be boilerplated templates somewhere, everywhere that you should be able to use it for me so I don't have to go see an attorney. So my answer is, I'm not licensed to do anything there. And second thing is, I'm not an expert. That's not what I do for a living. And so that's my question. But I'm sure people would be interested in hearing it from an attorney's perspective as to why they should come to you. But before we get into that, I know you, but
I'm just getting to know you.
That's right. So I think for the audience, if you can introduce yourself.
Well, I'm attorney Holly Geerdes. I specialize in estate planning, which estate planning, as you know, Joyce, is really a generic word.
Right.
It encompasses so many different legal issues. It can range from disability planning, incompetency issues, wills, trust, asset protection, and estate tax planning, Medicaid planning, business succession planning, because as you know, you have a lot of business clients, so do I. Real estate in LLCs and company names.
Right.
And those all encompass estate planning.
Right.
So that's what I specialize in. I've been an attorney for 23 years. I've also litigated in the first part of my career because I wanted to specialize in protecting family assets and businesses. And in my view, you have to have some litigation experience to know how all of these legal documents
play out
in the court system, whether it's probate court, state court, superior court, to make sure that these documents are drafted to work. Guaranteed to work when that day comes, when we need it.
Right. I know. And the thing about it is, I think that's a really important point. And I think that kind of gives me a piece in that when I, work with you. Because when you create these documents, it's you doing all that. When you pass, there's somebody else. Like if the document doesn't work in the court, what good is it, right? And as a consumer, you have no idea, really don't.
Yeah, and I always tell people when you do these documents and you want to try to take shortcuts, you want to try to do it yourself with no expert guidance, how are you ever going to know it's going to work?
That's right.
Until it's too late.
It is too late.
People do try doing it by themselves, on their own?
Yes. We're in a digital age where you can get on the internet, and I'm not opposed to that. I generally have no opinion. What I tell people, because I'm not going to tell you what to do, I'm here to help facilitate what you want, just like you're there to facilitate what the client needs. So, you know, when I ask clients, what's the most important in your life? What would that be?
Yes.
Your family.
Right.
And your assets.
Right.
And their answer tells me how sincere they are. Not judging anybody.
Right.
If you're really sincere about that, that's the most important thing to protect in your family. Are you going to want to do it right? Or is there going to be shortcuts that you just want to wing it? You just want to take the shortest, cheapest route. And that's fine. But that's telling me how important your family and your assets are
to you.
And that's
I want to say
my opinion
something.
on that.
I think that a lot of people, they get scared and they freeze up and they do nothing. You know?
I totally understand that.
So I think that this conversation is really, really important so that people get a better understanding and know why this is so important to do and not just leave it up to chance.
Yeah, and then the thing about it, it's just like my profession's the same thing. You know, you go use any off-the-shelf software to prepare your tax return. When everything works, everything's fine. When something goes wrong or something is missing.
The same thing happens with my profession. I'm a real estate broker. You know, people, of course they can buy and sell their houses on their own, but it's not until things go south and then they're like, oh man, what am I going to do? Well, you should have had a realtor representing you.
Yeah. So clients come to you, to me, when they don't want to gamble. They don't want to roll the dice and risk. They want something that's going to guarantee to work. And they're willing to pay for it.
That's right.
That's
true.
So she's an estate planning attorney, and she said it encompasses a lot of different things. You were asking earlier before we started, you're like, what is an estate?
There's so many terms that, you know, you hear, they just kind of fly past you, and you're not really sure what it really means. Like, there's a will, and then there's a family trust. And you hear on the internet, oh, you need to have a, family trust. I'm hearing that a lot. And I have no idea which, if it should be a will or if it should be a trust.
Even in estate planning, you specialize. There are some attorneys that only do probate and wills. Because as you know, will equals probate.
Right.
They don't understand a trust. They just do probate. And even probate judges don't understand a trust because trust is outside of probate.
That's right.
Then you have that people specialize in different kinds of trusts for asset protection. Some do only disability planning for Medicaid. That's what they do. Some do asset protection for protection from lawsuits and creditors and protecting the assets when they give the assets to the children at their death, so that their divorces and lawsuits and creditors don't wipe out their parents' inheritance. So there are different specialties even within estate planning. So when family members ask attorneys, hey, can you do all of these things? No. Attorneys actually specialize in different areas and subsets. So you want to be careful when you consult with attorneys. Hey, do you specialize in this? And in my view, when it comes to protecting your assets, you need to make sure they specialize in that.
I know. I know. That is so very important. I think the thing about it is, when you don't specialize in it, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, until it's too late.
Right. So that's really the value, I think. So, in your opinion, so should everybody go see you, for example? Or I guess the question is does this getting your final for your income, for your protection, should something happen to you, for example, whether this disability or death, a lot of people say, I don't own much, I just own a house and that's about a couple of cars. Do I have to go see an attorney? So I think we're gonna second session, second episode, I really want to dive into it as to different cases, as to like, okay, this is a simple case. Does it apply to you? Does it apply to you? But if you can kind of walk us through, okay, who comes to you? And then when they come, how do you work with them to solve what problem?
Right.
First and foremost, even if you decide not to use the attorney and go your own route, still go consult so that you know what the heck you're doing.
Right. Okay.
That you understand the limitations of doing it by yourself and the risk involved.
But consult with what type of attorney?
Well, estate planning lawyer that specializes.
Just start there.
Yeah.
Start with estate planning. Okay.
With wills and trusts. Tell them what your wishes, wants, and concerns are.
Okay.
And have them tell you what each option does and does not do. And where you go from there with that information is up to you.
That's right.
And but typically everyone, by the way, says they don't have much. You know that even as a CPA.
Yeah, they do.
It's no different from somebody having one house to somebody that's a multimillionaire. They all think that they don't have much.
It's all relative.
And I have people that have the right mindset that I have a home, I have everything. I have my health and I have my home and my family's good. And I have people, as you know, that have the same, quadruple that, and they're still complaining that they don't have enough to do any kind of planning.
Right.
Get the right expert advice. And it's really relative. It's your mindset. And realizing really what's important. And sometimes people die never realizing what's really important.
That's sad. That is true.
That's sad. It's not our job. You know, we can't change that. Our job is just to educate the public, the clients that come for advice. And you and I are very similar. When clients come in, all we want to do is make sure that you are educated.
Right.
And great if we work together, that's up to the universe.
Right.
But at least we did the right thing. It educated you.
That's right.
And so my advice for everybody is first get expert advice. Most estate planning lawyers, and I may be wrong, are willing to give you that free advice. I do. I don't charge for consultations. Maybe some do. And it's invaluable information.
It is.
As long as you get the right expert advice.
Right.
Unfortunately, I've had attorneys that only specialize, they're a general practitioner. And so they go in and say, oh, you don't need a trust.
Oh, yeah, I hear that too.
You don't have enough. And my mind is, it's not up to you to tell them they don't have enough. It's very disingenuous and, to tell people what's important to them or not.
Right.
That's not up to you.
Yeah.
Your job is to tell them what all the different options are based on what you have. But some attorneys, unfortunately, will tell clients that, well, you don't have enough. The attorneys can handle the probate.
Which is going to be very costly.
Which is costly, and nobody wants to go through waiting 1 to 2 years to get their parents' assets or their spouse's assets.
Right. But I think people don't understand. I mean, like, what happens? What happens if the person does nothing? Okay? So I'm a person that, I do have some assets. I have a house. I have some cars. I have some personal belongings. And I'm scared. I don't do anything. I don't come and consult with you. I don't get a will. I don't have, a family trust. What happens to my things?
Well, it depends on the type of assets you have. So do we want to go into that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk with the most valuable asset for everyone, their home.
Yeah.
That's your sanctity. That's your temple. That's where you live. That's where you are most of the time, even with the mortgage. Okay. When you pass away, it depends on whether you're married or whether you're single or widow. Most of the time, eventually, it will go through probate court. Probate court is the government legal court system to transfer clear title of assets to the next person. And if you don't have a will, the government already has set forth who gets your assets and how much. And so when you die with no planning, that's where your assets get turned over. Your property, your vehicle, any accounts that don't have beneficiary designations. And they go through their own legal process system of clearing title, notifying every possible heir, notifying all the creditors, hey, did this person owe you any money? Are you entitled to anything? All your assets become public information. And it just goes through its normal legal process.
So that's kind of how these debts get paid?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. People say, oh, I hate the government. Well, a lot of people don't take care of their affairs. We have to have the government deal with us to make sure that the creditors, the IRS, the attorneys, anybody that you owe money to, and we got to make sure the title is clear, and we got to make sure that all of the heirs who are entitled to the assets are notified, can make a claim. We got to have a legal system to do that for people that don't take care of their affairs, which, by the way, is still majority of people. So and it's costly, it's time consuming, it's stressful. Nobody wants to step into court.
Nobody does.
Probate court is a court system.
Not even the traffic court we don't want to go in.
Yeah.
So when that goes to the probate court, the heirs, people who are left, they have to do something there, right? They have to respond, and that can be really stressful.
Where does that start anyways? Like the person passes away and then what happens? Who sets that in motion?
Well, it depends. If you only have minor children, minor children can't receive any assets.
No.
Any accounts, bank accounts, life insurance. So a relative will probably, whoever's trying to be the guardian, because you have to be still appointed by the guardian, by the court, who's going to be the guardian. They'll petition.
Which can take for a long time.
Oh, that's a very long process.
Gosh, how long did it take the last one? It was like, close, more than a year, right?
Over a year.
Wow, yes.
That was a simple, everybody consented.
Right. Even then,
and they still have to report to the court every year. So minor children cannot receive assets. The court will appoint a guardian for daily decisions. But the assets itself, they'll appoint who's going to manage and control the assets. And that's a lifelong until the child turns 18.
And that person you may not like, you know what I mean, in real life. Before you pass, you may not have had any kind of good relationship. For example, let's say it's a sister or whoever, right? So that is not going to be carried based on your wishes. Because when the state gets involved, right, they're going to go by the book in terms of like who does what, right?
Best interest of the child,
right?
And whoever demonstrates that,
right, like will be exactly
right, and it can be anybody. I mean,
and who decides who has the most interest or has demonstrated the best interest?
The court.
How does the court know?
They have to have discovery and hearings, and
takes forever.
Takes a long time. It's like any other litigation. And it is expensive and time consuming. I don't wish that upon any minor children when their parents don't take care of who's going to manage the assets, because it puts them in limbo for a very long time. And it's generally not the person you had imagined to be appointed. And they get their fees out of managing the assets every year. And then whatever's left when the children turn 18, they just get one lump sum check and say, here you go.
Which is also a bad thing, because you don't know what to do when you're 18. Right. So this brings up a very good point in that, you know how when we talk about estate planning, we think of these old people. You mentioned it too, like as I'm getting older, you think about, oh my God, am I supposed to do something? Do I have to do something? What if I become incompetent, or what if something happens to me? But actually it applies to younger families too when they have minor children. Sometimes it's more important.
And purchase their first home. So people ask, when should I do this? Well, when you turn 18. Because if something happens to you, who's going to be the beneficiary? And again, we're not talking just about death. Probate court gets involved for incompetency issues.
Which is becoming a bigger issue. Bigger issues, really is.
But before we get into that, just when you ask what happens to your assets, property, generally gets turned over to probate. And in Georgia, there's no automatic right of survivorship, even with married couples. So a lot of widows in Georgia end up in probate court when their spouse dies first with the property. Second, any accounts that you can designate a beneficiary, so long as they're not minor, that trumps probate. It'll go automatically
to the
beneficiary outside of probate, so long as they're not minor children. So those are the exceptions. So probate generally ends up to be a lot of properties, vehicles, if any minor children are involved, and incompetency issues. Yeah.
Wow.
But creditors can open probate too. It's not like you can just ignore it. Anybody can open probate.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, creditors.
That piece people totally miss out. They think if they die with that, and they're going to try to collect money, right? But nobody responds, and they think they're just going to walk away. That's the perception.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. It's like, it just goes away. Somebody passes away, and poof, the debt goes away. But that's not at all the case.
The creditor can actually go open the...
Yeah, your debt doesn't disappear just because you died.
Okay.
So I've opened probate court for creditors when people just delay opening probate because people just wait and wait. You got to eventually open it because if you have a property, somebody's going to want that property. And it can't be transferred. There's no clear title. You can't do anything with it. And some people will access accounts and others in violation of the law. And when probate finally has to be opened, there's a day of reckoning. Where's the money? You're personally liable to bring it back to the court. If you spent it all, you're in a lot of trouble. And there's a certain deadline that you're supposed to open probate, and it just gets more expensive and more accountability if you keep waiting. They're not going to force you to do it, but when you finally have to do it, because somebody's going to want that property or it's going to be turned over to the state in a state foreclosure, then there's a day of reckoning in probate court for whoever was supposed to open it or wants the asset, wants that property. They're going to have to go to probate court to get it.
Okay. This is a lot of information. Okay. I need to give you a little scenario. Okay. I know someone that passed away, and this someone, promised, whenever I pass, you're going to get everything. Okay. Well, this person had a girlfriend that was living at the house, and, he passed, and there was nobody knew that he'd passed.
Except the girlfriend.
Except the girlfriend and some friend of his. And anyways, the family ended up finding out that he passed away because there was a family member getting married. And they're like trying to extend him an invitation. It's like, hey, we want to invite him to the wedding and send messages or whatever. And somebody had the cell phone, the person that passed away's cell phone, and called and said, hey, I know you're trying to reach this person, but we want to let you know, that he passed on. What? Anyways, assets, who knows what happened to it? Debts, who knows what happened to that? So I'm wondering, in a situation like that, what happened? Did the girlfriend just did they even open probate? Did this person just pass away, and then the girlfriend had the debit card and just, let me go ahead and take out the money and go spend it? What happens in situations like that?
Oh, there could be many different scenarios. It could be different movie versions.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
So, a lot of times things could have been changed over during his lifetime.
Okay.
That's one scenario. The other scenario is if they didn't, then it's just sitting there and somebody's got to investigate what's the status of the assets. And you can look at the title on the property. In order to get into the bank accounts, you'd have to open probate.
Who opens this? Who's the one that would initiate that?
Any possible heir.
Oh.
Anybody that thinks that they were the possible heir. Bank accounts, you can't get into that or know anything about it unless you open probate. And even then, beneficiary designations could have been changed prior to his death.
Yeah.
It could have been a joint account. You know, when you have a companion, when you remarry, or you have a girlfriend and they're taking care of them, and they could be perfectly good people. It could be totally legitimate that he wanted everything to go to them because they're there taking care of him.
Right.
Or not. But things can be changed over, and the family members don't know anything about it. And there's just many different versions of how that could play out. Why probate's not open. Maybe it wasn't necessary if everything got changed over and there was beneficiary designations, right of survivorship. The title on the deed could have been changed over prior to death.
If the heirs, let's say this person, like, I'm going to give you everything, and you know now that he passed away, I can go check it out too, right? I can go.
Well, after death, the only way to check that out is opening probate. You have no legal authority to get any information.
That's right. So, like, I can go there, and I'm kind of like a legit heir, in my opinion. So then I can go open it up. That's one of the ways that the probate court case can be opened.
Correct.
Right. So you can go ahead and do that.
Oh. Okay.
Well, and when they open it, they have to figure out who's going to be the administrator. Whether it's going to be the county, if people object. And of course, your friend or whoever has to notify the girlfriend. You can't just go in there privately and think that this is going to happen privately. You do have to notify all possible heirs or people entitled to money. So then the girlfriend would come in and say, no, I should be the administrator. And we don't even know, there may be a will. Because wills get signed at the last minute, or when people are incompetent, or there's multiple versions of a will, or we can't find the original will, but there's a copy somewhere. You can, there's just many different ways. But yes, she could possibly open probate, but has to notify the girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
And then you know what's going to happen then.
Yeah. Not good.
And that brings up a good question. People think that if you have a will, then I'm all good. That I don't have to go to a probate court, right?
Yeah.
So he's giving me a sign that we're running out of time a little bit. So, but if you could answer that question before we close out, what's the difference between, do I still have to get a trust, or is will going to take care of everything?
Right.
Well, a will does not take care of everything. It's a start. Because the will still requires probating the same assets that we talked about, property, vehicles, any beneficiary designations that have minors, any accounts that have no beneficiary designations. The will still requires probate to clear the title on all those assets and verify who should be getting it. And the will can be challenged and objected to, because when you step into court in the United States, anybody can object for any reason, for any purpose.
That's true.
And you have to litigate that issue to get to the truth. And 99% of cases settle. So we never get to the truth because litigation's too expensive.
Too expensive. That's
So that is, you're right, Joyce, that is the biggest misconception about estate planning, that the will takes care of everything. Even though when you sign a will, intuitively, I feel like there should be something more. Everybody comes back and says they felt that there should be something more.
Right. Because you can change your will any time of the day.
Anytime, and it's so simple, and it seems too good to be true.
That's true.
It is.
You know what? I hope that you'll come back, because I would love to hear like a scenario of the ideal, the ideal scenario. Okay,
to take care of everything.
Yeah, so that people get some kind of an idea of what's necessary to get the ball rolling, to get themselves set up so that they can feel like they're leaving things in order. I don't know.
And that'll segue into when we talk about setting up the trust right with the right expert and maintaining it.
That's right.
There's different types of trust, and we can go into that in a different session.
Okay.
But the ideal is setting up the trust with the right expert.
All right, thanks for joining us today. We're going to have to wrap up here. And like Holly said, she's coming back. We're going to ask more questions and address the things that's on everybody's mind. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this week's video. If you have questions on anything we covered, or you'd like to ask us, just leave it in the comments below. We love to hear what you have to say about what we talked about and what you want us to talk about. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.